4.
Jeff, it's fair to say that you kind of stink at golf, don't you?
What are you talking about, man? I'm totally winning. I've got like 84 points, and we're only on the 9th hole here at Pakachoag Golf Course.
Right, but the objective of golf is to score less points. Strokes are bad.
Oh, got it. Oh, well, maybe I'm not doing so great. All right, well, you're up. Wow, I can't even see where that one went. It went up so high.
Probably to the moon.
You know what? It had all the height, but not much distance.
All right, well, I think it's safe to say that we both stink at golf.
We do. And it's funny you mention your ball going to the moon, because if it wasn't for something that happened up here on the 9th fairway, we may have never gone to space or walked on the moon at all.
Really?
Yeah. We've come to the 9th hole at Pakachoag Golf Course in Auburn, Massachusetts, to witness the launch of the world's first liquid-fueled rocket. Hello, I'm Jeff Belanger.
And I'm Ray Auger. Welcome to episode 321 of the New England Legends podcast. Thanks for joining us on our mission to chronicle every legend in New England, one story at a time. From roadside oddities to ghosts, monsters, UFOs, strange creatures, true crime, and odd history, we love all the weirdness that makes New England great.
And did you know that most of our story leads come from you? This one did. Thanks to Daniel Lachaume for tipping us off. If you've got a story you think we should check out, please reach out to us anytime through our website.
We'll go searching for the world's first liquid-fueled rocket right after this word from our sponsor.
Ray, I'm a spaceflight nerd.
I get it. What's cooler than launching a rocket into space?
So ever since I was a kid, I loved watching space launches on TV, reading about astronauts, pondering all things space. I once wrote a children's book called What It's Like to Climb Mount Everest, Blast Off into Space, Survive a Tornado, and Other Extraordinary Stories. And for the book, I got the chance to interview astronaut Sandy Magnus, who flew on multiple space shuttle missions, and she spent time aboard the International Space Station.
Wow, that's really cool.
And she was a great storyteller, too. She was describing the feeling of lying on the launch pad in the space shuttle, and she said it's almost like you're sitting in a rolling office chair, and someone runs up and kicks you from behind. She's like, it looks so smooth and easy from the outside, but it doesn't feel that way on the inside. But she might not have gone anywhere if not for what happened here on the 9th fairway at Pakachoag Golf Course.
And here I thought golf was boring.
Oh, it is. But what happened here before there was a golf course was far from boring. What happened here on the current 9th fairway changed the world. So let's head back to 1926 and witness history here in Auburn.
It's March of 1926 here in Auburn, Massachusetts, and a 42-year-old man named Robert H. Goddard is hard at work.
Goddard was born in nearby Worcester, Massachusetts in 1883, and from a young age he fell in love with math and science. But he had a healthy dose of sci-fi thanks to reading novelists like H.G. Wells, especially his 1898 book, War of the Worlds. Goddard attended Worcester Polytech Institute for his undergrad, and he got his doctorate in physics from Clark University, also in Worcester, all the while dreaming of reaching the upper atmosphere of Earth and then space beyond that.
By 1914, Goddard had already filed his first 2 patents for a multi-stage rocket fueled by liquid.
We should point out that solid-fueled rockets have been around for centuries. The Chinese first experimented with them in warfare as explosives, and of course fireworks use a gunpowder mixture to propel the rockets skyward. But gunpowder rockets are inaccurate, and they can be unpredictable.
Right, but liquid fuel is different. Goddard needs something that will sustain a controlled thrust, not burn up quick like a bottle rocket.
Sure.
On paper, Goddard believes he can build a vehicle to reach higher than humans have ever gone before.
And like anyone ahead of his time, Goddard didn't get much support.
I get it, though. The Wright brothers made their first flight at Kitty Hawk only 23 years ago. We're barely crawling in terms of powered human flight. And Goddard is talking about rockets and outer space?
Still, things are changing fast. I mean, the world just went through a horrible world war a decade ago. And since then, many innovations have been popping up. To Goddard, rocket flight is the next logical step after propeller planes. Even though he has no backing from anyone, he uses his own time and resources to work on designs for his rocket.
Goddard did eventually get some help in the form of a $5,000 5-year grant from the Smithsonian Institute back in 1917. The Smithsonian also published Goddard's manuscript titled A Method of Reaching Extreme Altitudes.
But Goddard still has his detractors. In 1920, a New York Times editorial scoffed at Goddard's ideas and designs. The editorial reasoned that rockets can't work in the vacuum of space because they need to push against air in order to propel forward. They believed that Goddard is wasting his time.
But that all becomes fuel for the rocket fire. Goddard is motivated. He's been experimenting with gasoline as the fuel and liquid oxygen as the oxidizer.
After years of tinkering and drafting designs, Goddard feels ready to unveil his prototype, a rocket he calls Nell.
Okay, Goddards Rocket is a strange-looking contraption.
It is.
It stands about 12 feet tall, but most of it is empty space taken up by a metal framework. There's a small cylinder at the very top, which looks like a small cone under it, like a rocket engine. It's maybe the size of a canister of tennis balls. About 5 feet below that is another small rocket-looking thing with a cone. And below that is a single post, almost like the end of a walking cane.
Sure.
If Goddard doesn't hold his rocket upright, it will fall right over. It can't stand on its own.
It's Tuesday, March 16th, 1926. Robert Goddard has brought his rocket out to his Aunt Effie's farm here in Auburn. With Goddard is his wife Esther and a couple of assistants from Clark University, where Goddard is a professor.
It's cold here today. The ground is covered with a thin layer of snow. This winter isn't ready to let us go just yet. Goddard is assembling a square metal frame that looks almost like a small swing set. This frame will hold the rocket upright until launch.
Oh man, this is exciting. So Goddard is attaching a hose from the bottom of his rocket to a tank of liquid oxygen.
You know what? We should probably back up.
Yeah, for sure. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay, well, it didn't go all that high.
No.
And it crashed into the ground less than a football field away from the launch pad.
So officially, the rocket, affectionately called Nell, hit a height of 41 feet and flew a distance of 184 feet before crashing into the ground.
I'm pretty sure I can hit a golf ball higher than 41 feet and further than 184 feet. And as we already know, I stink at golf.
That height and distance is definitely doable, even for a couple of hacks like us.
So I guess Goddard has a long way to go.
He does. But the Wright brothers' first flight was only 852 feet in distance. You got to crawl before we can walk. Goddard just made the first movement with liquid-fueled rockets. And that brings us back to today. Robert Goddard died in 1945 in Baltimore, Maryland. He was 62 years old. He didn't live long enough to see humans fly into space on a rocket, but those who came after him stood on the shoulders of a giant.
In 1939, the family that owned the Auburn farm converted it into the Pakachoag Golf Corporation, and it's been a golf course ever since.
A golf course with a unique man-made obstacle here on the 9th fairway. Let's check it out.
All right, there's a little sectioned off garden, maybe 5 feet by 5 feet.
Yep.
And in the middle is a small stone obelisk, about 3 feet high.
Go ahead and read the inscription on the obelisk.
Okay, it says, site of launching the world's first liquid propellant rocket by Dr. Robert H. Goddard, 16 March 1926.
So at the very least, this is a hazard for flying golf balls.
Not the way we hit them, though.
That's true enough. Robert Goddard was the best kind of dreamer. Raised on science fiction, those early impressions had him reaching for the stars. I mean, to him, it wasn't fiction he was reading. It was a build spec. He just had to figure out how to make it a reality. Though the first flight only reached 41 feet, a seed was planted that grew into rockets, a space shuttle, and commercial space travel today. Oh, and remember that editorial published by the New York Times in 1920, the one that scoffed at Goddard's ideas?
Yeah.
On July 17th, 1969, the very day after Apollo 11 lifted off on its historic trip to land the first humans on the moon, the New York Times printed a correction 49 years after the fact. Go ahead and give this a read.
Okay, it says, further investigation and experimentation have confirmed the findings of Isaac Newton in the 17th century, and it is now definitely established that a rocket can function in a vacuum as well as in an atmosphere. The Times regrets the error. Better late than never, I guess.
Right, exactly. Today, the Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland is named after him, and he also has a moon crater named in his honor. And as we stand here on the 9th fairway, dodging golf balls on this Auburn golf course, It's pretty wild to think what started here has taken us to the moon and beyond. It's only fitting we give the last words to Robert Goddard, who said, quote, "It is difficult to say what is impossible, for the dream of yesterday is the hope of today and the reality of tomorrow."
So true. It takes a dreamer to leap us forward. And that takes us to After the Legend, where we explore this week's episode a little deeper and sometimes veer off course.
Sometimes. After the Legend's brought to you by our Patreon patrons who've been supporting a couple of dreamers for years. Bringing you 2 podcasts each week takes a ton of time, money, and effort. We love doing it, but the hosting costs, production, marketing, and everything else can really add up. So we appreciate our Patreon patrons kicking in just $3 per month, though some choose to give a little more. And for that, they get early ad-free access to new episodes, plus bonus episodes and content that no one else gets to hear. To become an even bigger part of this community, please head over to patreon.com/New England Legends to sign up. And if you'd like to see some pictures of Robert Goddard, his first rocket, and the monument today, click on the link in our episode description or go to our website and click on episode 321.
I grew up in the Auburn area.
Sure, right.
So we used to go to the Auburn Mall all the time.
Yep.
Played Auburn in football. So there is a little monument outside of, it's close to the mall in like I guess you'd call it the center of Auburn. Mm-hmm. So that's how I know Goddard.
Goddard, yeah.
But this was all new to me, which was kind of nice, this story.
Yeah. And so that golf course, that used to be a farm, and and the thing is, like, it's a stone obelisk, like almost like you'd see in a cemetery.
Yeah.
A golf ball has to hit that thing.
Sure.
Right? Someone whacks into it and it goes in whatever direction. I'm not sure if there's a stroke penalty or
I don't know.
Play it where it lies. Like if it hit a tree, I have no idea. I'm not a golfer.
No.
As we know.
I mean, because we are not golfers, we could take it out of the woods, throw it back in the fairway, and not be penalized for that.
Right. We would be like 6 beers in anyway.
Yeah. If a tree falls in the forest and no one is there, it doesn't make a sound. That's the kind of thing. If I hit a ball into the woods and throw it back in, no one's there, does it count as a stroke?
Or just get a new ball. I always thought it'd be fun to use the golf carts and just play it like polo.
Oh, I've seen that done.
While you're driving.
Yeah, why not?
That seems more entertaining to me.
Yeah.
Like, oh, wow, I got to the hole in only like 27 strokes.
Sure.
That's pretty good.
They frown upon that.
I bet.
But
I bet it's very destructive.
It's a misuse of the carts.
Right.
I shouldn't be trusted with a cart ever.
No, I wouldn't trust you with a cart.
They have that governor on it now, though, so you really can't go too fast.
Well, not with that attitude.
I know how to take that thing off.
Yeah. Oh, come on. I got a YouTube video. All right, you lift that. Okay, yep, got it. Just unscrew that, and we're off. No, I get it. It's I'm not a golfer. It eludes me entirely.
My dad was a big golfer. If you look behind you,
I know, right?
It's a hole in one he got once.
Wow. Hole in one. Yeah.
Yep.
I once got a hole in 21. Yeah. It's just, it's not my thing.
And I'm sure he's golfed here before.
Yeah. It's popular. It's owned by the town.
Yep.
It was private for a long time, and then the town took it over, I think, in 1981, if I remember correctly. And it's been that ever since. And so, but one of the things I love about it is that I love how sci-fi has pushed so much real science. Because good sci-fi, right, has to be based in real science. Like you can't go purely to Crazy Town, right? And so, like the idea of this is really going to nerd out here, right? But combining matter and antimatter.
Oh yeah,
for Star Trek, right? For the warp drives.
Yep.
Well, that's actually a possibility,
sure.
Right? Like that would create an immense amount of energy. And
well, I think on paper, time travel is possible.
Sure. Right.
Yeah. We just haven't figured it out yet, or have we?
I know. If we have, please tell us the lottery numbers.
We talked about that already, right? Bigfoot being an alien, or not
time
an
traveling.
alien, but time traveling.
We did.
Yeah, we did. Okay.
About all this stuff. But now, of course, commercial space flight is a thing. Like, I mean, it's a lot. It's out of our price range. But at what price would you be willing to go? Like, how much would you pay? Like you, Ray, today? Like, how much? If it was $200, would you go?
I think way too many things could go wrong.
Well, all right.
You know what I mean?
Fair enough.
Like,
okay.
I think that's what would worry me. Would I like to if it was guaranteed I'd be up and down?
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
I mean, I can look at images on the computer. I know it's not the same.
When Elon Musk and all those guys went on their rockets, and Bezos, for Amazon went on that, I was like, okay, I get it. You're multi-billionaires playing with toys that most of us will never even touch, let alone own.
Right.
But when they sent Shatner up, Right?
I mean, good for him because his career is based in space.
To me, that was really magical to me because, like, I grew up watching Star Trek reruns, you know, and I'm like, in my lifetime and in his lifetime, a guy that played Captain Kirk on a spaceship actually went to space. That is really
get it,
cool.
But ask that same question to Harrison Ford, and I bet you he would just laugh at you. As like, I'm an actor. I was never in space.
Harrison Ford
from Star
Wars. Yeah. Oh, okay. Why?
No, I'm saying like his career is based in space as well, due in part to a huge movie he was in.
Right.
Same with Shatner.
Sure.
Shatner, they made a big deal about, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta go. I worked in space."
Right.
But I'm just saying, I don't know how magical that actually is when you think about it. Harrison Ford would probably laugh at that, like, I don't need to go to space.
Right. Fair
enough.
enough.
A green screen, and
It was
never
Stop
felt
it.
like I was there. I don't feel like I have to go back.
Did you see that spoiler meme? It's just like most parts of Star Wars were actually filmed on Earth. And you're like, oh, it's true.
Although I did hear that Tom Cruise is filming his next movie in space.
Get out of here.
Yeah.
He's going to the International Space Station.
I don't know what he's doing.
Because you can pay to do that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
he's
millions.
He's going to do that. So he is one that is, very pure in nature, where he does his stunts. And he's like, what haven't I done yet? Space. We're going to film in space.
Wow. I mean, good for him. Again, another person with so much money that we will never have.
Right.
But so anyway, back to my point. So
Yes.
I said $200. I mean, yeah, I would go. $200. I wouldn't even think about it. I'd go
Really?
right now.
You wouldn't be concerned about the launch and the
petrified. I'd be petrified beyond belief.
All right. Would you then work on your will before that?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
You'd have everything settled?
Yeah.
See, I don't want to go through all that.
But I'm trying to the argument I'm
I have
trying
trouble
to
leaving the house sometimes. Never mind going to space.
What's the price point? Right? Like, what's the money where you're like, so if it was $1,000, I would go for sure.
Yeah.
If it was $5,000, yes.
Okay.
If it was $10,000, I mean, and I'm just talking purely financial now.
Sure.
Like for literally whatever. How long is that flight?
45 minutes?
I don't even think it's that long.
Yeah.
Right. The up and down is, I think, like 9 minutes or
Right.
10 minutes. Right. So a 10-minute ride for $10,000. Maybe that would be a retirement gift to myself.
What do you get out of it?
I've done it. I've been there, right? I've been up into space. Now, if it was, I can tell you right now, anything beyond $10,000, I don't think I could ever justify the cost. And my point is, a regular schmo like me, willing to go 10 G's large for this experience, and that rocket, I think, only holds, 6 passengers?
Yeah.
So if you get 6 passengers at $10,000 each, that ain't going to even...
It's not covering anything.
It's not going to cover anything.
Right.
It's not going to cover the food they give you while you wait to launch, right?
Well, that's why you stop at a gift store
Right.
before you come back down. They have a little gift shop up there.
Makes sense. Like, hey, maybe you could spend a little money up here. So my point is that, like, it's so far out of reach
Oh, absolutely.
for people like us.
I mean, someday, perhaps.
Yeah. Oh, right. Maybe there'll be a large rocket or a space plane that can take off and do a trip for hundreds of dollars, not millions.
And I'm sure they're working on that.
I'm sure they are.
Because we're expecting us to screw up this world. We'll need to go somewhere else and take a big boat to go there.
Right. So that's the thing. But it's wild that it all started in Auburn, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
I don't know why you assume, like, well, Texas or Florida.
Yeah, I was thinking
where
Florida.
Kennedy Space Center is and everything else. But Goddard's name is sacred in NASA and all over, and he's a kid from Worcester. Like,
Well,
how
think
cool is
of
that?
Flight. Kitty Hawk. That's such a small random town.
Right.
But that's where Flight began.
That's where we left
Man-made flight.
the surly bonds of Earth to touch the face of God. I think that's really amazing, and I love that there's this little monument out there that, and you got to, folks, click on the link. You got to see this rocket. It is weird looking, and obviously many changes have been made since. But he built this thing and it went up. I mean, sure, you could literally probably throw a rock higher than 41 feet, right?
You could probably get a model rocket kit too and do the same thing.
Way higher than 41 feet.
Yeah.
Easily. Yeah. And by the way, balloon flight was already a thing, and propeller planes were flying higher than that already, because there were propeller planes in World War I.
Right.
So yes, we had already reached pretty good heights, thousands of feet. But but this was it. You got.
Wasn't a bad start, I suppose.
It was it went up at least. It didn't just explode on the launch pad. It went up 41 feet, 4 stories. Not a whole lot, right? But there were improvements made, And eventually we went to the moon and beyond. And someday someone's going to walk on Mars and look all the way back from that red planet, all the way at this little blue dot, and say, I bet that's where Auburn is, right about there.
Hey, please do us a favor and click subscribe on the New England Legends podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and then post a review for us. It takes only a second and helps a lot of other people find us in a crowded sea of podcasts. Be sure to check out our website for dates to Jeff's fall story tour and to see my band, the Pub Kings. Plus, there's a link to buy Jeff's new book and calendar. We love when you visit us.
Thank you so much to our sponsors. Thanks to our Patreon patrons. And our theme music is by John Judd.
Until next time, remember,
the bizarre is closer than you think.